Hi, I'm Srijesh Nair. Today we're diving into how to create an efficient film mixing template for Dolby Atmos. I'll walk you through the core components, track types, and specific setup details using my own template as a guide. Let's get started. This is my Pro Tools session template, and I've structured it to keep everything organized and accessible. Here I've got folders for picture, VCAs, dialogue, effects, music, options 1 and 2, which I'll explain shortly, as well as masters, prints, and some tools. Let's walk through each section. Let's start with the dialogue folder. This is where I organize everything related to spoken audio, including production dialogue, ADR, and production effects. The production effects are recorded directly on set, along with the production dialogues. Before we dive into individual folders, let's go over the master chain that I use for my dialogue processing. I begin with an EQ for tonal shaping, followed by a Pro multiband compressor to manage specific frequency ranges. And then there's a de-esser, followed by another compressor for overall control. I also use a dialogue processor from MIG DSP to add detail to the vocal tone. And finally, a secondary EQ for additional tone adjustments. This helps keep the dialogue clear, consistent, and adaptable across scenes, whether it's busy or quiet. Within the dialogue folder itself, I have the production dialogue folder with separate tracks for the boom and the lav mics, each with dedicated EQ and compression, allowing precise control over each source. I also include fuzz and processing tracks for special effects. Fuzz tracks are used to create unique tones like telephone or radio style sounds, while processing tracks allow me to add other effects when needed to enhance specific lines creatively. It can be a monster, it can be a robot, or it can be a design element. The ADR section follows a similar setup with its own EQ, compressor, and dedicated processing track for specific effects like as the phone or the fuzz filters. This setup makes it easy to seamlessly blend ADR with the original production dialogue. Additionally, I organize production effects or PFX here, including fill tracks. Fill tracks are single mono ambience tracks extracted from location sound to maintain consistent background ambience when ADR replaces certain lines. I also have these set of reverb boxes, which are short reverb, slap, hall/room, process A, and process B. Each one of these has its own dedicated sends and returns. This helps to give me more granular control across scenes and sequences so that they flow and blend from one scene to the other. Moving on to the effects folder or the SFX, I organize this into 3 groups, A, B, and C, each containing 8 mono and 8 stereo tracks. This matches my S6 or my S1 fader buckets, making it easier to manage each group. Each group is routed to its own auxiliary track, like SFX A, which then feeds into the main SFX bus. This structure gives me control over each group individually, allowing adjustments without affecting the others. It also provides the flexibility to manage all of the effects together, which is especially helpful in complex scenes. The Ambience folder is structured similarly with A, B, and C groups of 8 mono and 8 stereo tracks, each routed to its own auxiliary feeding into the main Ambience folder. This setup allows me to control each layer separately. For example, I might use Ambience A for city sounds, Ambience B for background winds, and Ambience C for subtle nature effects. This gives me the flexibility to build and balance a realistic immersive background varying with each scene. Now on to Foley. Foley sounds like cloth rustling, hand grabs, and small incidental sounds are organized in the Foley folder, which is then routed to the effects folder. These sounds are crucial for adding realism and texture to the mix. In the Foley folder, I have dedicated tracks for different Foley types such as cloth sound, object movements, and hand grabs, etc. This organization ensures that Foley sounds stand out and don't clash with the larger effects. The footsteps folder is where I keep all the footsteps tracks. These tracks are routed directly to the effects folder, allowing me to manage them alongside the other effects. By isolating footsteps, I can balance them precisely, ensuring they have the right presence without overpowering other sounds. Then we have the 2 optional folders labeled Option 1 and Option 2. Option 1 usually contains crowd and walla tracks, background voices, or general murmurs. Keeping these separate allows flexibility in deciding whether or not to include them in the M&E mix. Option 2 is for song vocals, making it easy to create an M&E version without these elements when needed. I use VCAs to control various groups in the mix. Each VCA manages a specific area including dialogue, effects, ambience, Foley, footsteps, and an overall VCA for all audio tracks. Each VCA controls not just the main routing folder's fader, but also the master fader of each corresponding object. For example, the dialogue VCA adjusts both the fader of the dialogue routing folder and the master fader of each dialogue object. I set it up this way because the master fader has inserts after the fader in Pro Tools, allowing me to mix directly into the limiter on objects and maintain consistent dynamics. Finally, let's take a look at the print track section. This is where I record all my re-renders, the 7.1, the 5.1 and the stereo mixes. Each format has its own dedicated folder here, keeping things organized and easy to navigate. For each mix, I used a very detailed naming system that tells me exactly what I'm looking at just by reading the file name. It includes all the critical information we need to keep things clear and consistent across different versions. This is how it breaks down. Each track name starts with the film name and specifies whether it's a domestic print or an international print, so we know right away who the audience is. Then we add PM, which stands for Print Master, followed by the channel count, like 8 channels for 7.1 or 6 channels for 5.1. Then there is 48K to indicate the sample rate, 24B represents the bit depth, 24F shows us the film's frame rate, and after that we have R01 for the real number and V01 for the version number. And all of this ends with a date for easy reference. As an example, I'll have a print master for each format 7.1, 5.1 and stereo. Then I repeat this for all the key stems, my dialogue stem, effects stem, music stem, optional tracks like option 1 and 2 and my M&E track. And that's my Dolby Atmos mixing template in Pro Tools. I hope this breakdown has given you valuable insights for building and refining your own template. A well-organized template keeps your workflow fast and intuitive, allowing you to focus on creating a great mix. Thanks for watching and happy mixing.